Good morning and welcome to the 2026 Congressional Pig Book Press Conference. I'm Tom Schatz, President of Citizens Against Government Waste. And the 33rd edition of the Congressional Pig Book exposes 8,392 earmarks in fiscal year 2026, 2.1% more than the 8,222 in fiscal year 2024, and the cost is $23.7 billion. That's 4.4% more than the $22.7 billion in fiscal year 2024. We're comparing it to 2024 because there were no appropriations bills passed in fiscal year 2025. But the $23.7 billion cost is the fourth highest since CAGW released the first Congressional Pig Book in 1991. Since then, CAGW has identified 140,826 earmarks, costing $484 billion. The Senate Appropriations Committee ranking member Patty Murray of Washington claimed the most earmarks in Congress by value in FY 2026. Her 96 earmarks cost $484.7 million, earning her the Whole Hog Oinker Award. House Appropriations Committee member Chuck Fleischman of Tennessee had 14 earmarks costing $250 million, the most in the House of Representatives, including the largest in the entire Congress. And following Senator Murray to round out the top five were 4 Republican senators. And while these 5 senators constitute less than 1% of the 535 members of Congress, their $2.2 billion in earmarks was 9.4% of the total cost. The disproportionate distribution of earmarks is also reflected in the earmarks by the House and Senate Appropriations Committee members. They constitute 17% of the members of Congress, yet they receive 41.3% of the earmarks and 38.8% of the money. And while the earmarks have always been a bipartisan problem, there is a significant difference between Democrats and Republicans. Across the House and Senate, 99.6% of Democrats had earmarks and 72.3% of Republicans had earmarks. The 33rd installment of CAGW's expose of pork barrel spending includes $58.8 million for the M1 Abrams tank upgrade program, which is opposed by the Pentagon, and $1.5 million by Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer for a new door at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, which has a fund balance of $5.8 billion, and for which he earned the Taxpayer's Nightmare at the Museum Award. I want to thank you, as always, to Pigfoot, our illustrious mascot. Thank you to Sean Kennedy for again wading through the muddled and murky appropriations bills to expose and uncover the earmarks of FY 2026, and of course, our Communications Director, Alex Abrams, for putting this together. I would now like to turn over the podium to Senator Scott.
Oh, first off, I want to thank Tom for doing this. We worked together years ago when I was in the hospital business trying to show how the hospital industry wastes so much of your money. It's ridiculous. Healthcare costs have skyrocketed, and it hasn't slowed down since the first time we met 30 years ago. So it's frustrating. I've been up here 7 years. When I was governor of Florida, Florida had not balanced its budget about once in 40 years. We balanced it every year. And guess what? Jobs were created. We flourished. Up here, we're seeing high inflation now. It's caused by wasteful spending. And you go project after project after project. And both parties are doing it. Republicans are doing it. Democrats are doing it. They're just wasting taxpayer money. You can't go home and defend money for the opera in New York, or opera houses around the country, or a fake elephant exhibit in New Jersey. You could just go on and on and on of all this waste. And it makes you mad because it's somebody's money. And right now, the rich are doing fine. Right? The rich are, the stock market's up, the rich are doing fine. You know who's getting hurt with all this inflation? The poor and the middle class. And it's caused by this massive wasteful spending, including all these earmarks. So, Tom, thank you for doing it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Senator Paul.
Well, once again, Citizens Against Government Waste has exposed more waste in government. Shocking, surprising. I would say we're here to celebrate this, but I think that's the wrong way. We're here to recognize this. And I think one of the things you notice when you talk to people at home and around the country is that they recognize we're finding the waste. Doge found waste. All of us have exposed waste in our individual offices. But people want to know, why does it recur? Why doesn't it go away? Why did William Proxmire complain about the National Science Foundation's study to determine what creates happiness, or why do people fall in love, or what makes fish more aggressive, tequila or gin. Those studies go on year after year, decade after decade. And I think part of the answer is we just don't have the courage. There's not one Democrat who will vote against the spending bill, so that is partisan. But half the Republicans continue to vote for the spending. We have to do something, and even DOGE came up with all those great cuts, and we clawed back $9 billion. That was wonderful. I voted for it. We all supported it. That's less than 1%. I mean, it's less than 0.1% of the $7 trillion we spend. So something's got to give. We have to do something before the system breaks. In addition to the waste, all the entitlement programs are spending money we don't have. They're all out of money and rapidly approaching a time when they will be bankrupt as well. So we need more courage here and more solutions and more ability to, frankly, put forward ways to reduce the spending. I continue to fight for that, and I applaud Citizens Against Government Waste for their help in the fight.
Senator Langford.
Thank you. So I also join my colleagues as well in thanking Citizens Against Government Waste for exposing this again. There is a benefit to the transparency in getting the word out to say this is happening, because until you show it, until people see it, people just ignore it or assume it's not there. But once you expose it, it does make a difference. I put out every year something called the Federal Fumble Book. The Fumble Book, when we put it out, we list out from multiple different agencies and entities, here's a wasteful project. It was the study of how COVID-19 affects herring in Alaska. It was the study for $250 million on how to transition mice from one sex to another. All of the things that we've seen on this, they're just incredibly wasteful. We expose it. What's been interesting for me in the Senate is because we go through the nomination process and the confirmation, many of these folks come to our offices and want to talk to us personally about this and to be able to figure out what's going to happen with what was exposed. But I've also seen now that for many of the confirmation folks that come into my office, they will say to me at the beginning, one of my goals in this position is not to have my agency in your fumble book in the days ahead. That's what this kind of report does. It continues to expose it so people can see it. They know, hey, that I can't just do it in the dark. It gets out there. Let me just give you a bit of good news. Last year when we passed several different reforms dealing with fraud and waste, one of them dealt with SNAP benefits. Just not taking away SNAP benefits from anyone who qualifies for SNAP, but taking away from people who are not legally present in the country, taking away from people that actually don't qualify for SNAP so that they don't get that. That doesn't seem harsh. If you qualify for it, you get it. If you don't qualify, you don't. Should be standard in America. It wasn't until we actually did a change. We just learned in the last couple of days, now we have 3 million people that have been removed from the SNAP roll just based on the change that we've already made. So there are areas of progress. The Department of Justice has now put in place a fraud group where they've hired over 200 attorneys nationwide to just start going after fraud like what we saw in Minnesota, to start aggressively saying we're not going to allow people to be able to defraud the American people and literally take benefits away from people and take money away from the American people. So while there's a long way to go to be able to get this back under control in a huge budget, there are areas of progress that are being made, and once we make the first step, let's make the second one, let's make the third one, let's keep going on. So thank you for continuing to be able to expose this out.
Thank you. Congressman Malcolm.
Thank all of my Senate colleagues and others for, standing up with Citizens Against Government Waste. You come to Congress, a lot of people come with good intentions, and then they morph into something else just to stay in office. And we're at the end of the road when it comes to how much more debt are we going to have. The interest now alone exceeds the entire military budget. All that being said is what y'all are doing are putting figures together. And I'm kind of like the Senator Langford. I put out a book, a memo, it can't be too long, just identifying the line items of tax money that is your money, particularly you young people's money. It's everybody's, but you young people are going to be paying the bill. $39 trillion, I can't even do the interest on that. It's going to come to a hard stop when they stop buying our bonds. So all that to be said is what y'all are doing makes a difference. Don't ever think that it doesn't. People recognize waste, fraud, and abuse. And what was identified earlier the Dose Commission to cut only $9 billion, that's a teardrop in the ocean. So I look forward to continuing exposing what y'all are giving us fodder to let the people know, because it's not politicians' money, it's the citizens' money. So keep doing what you're doing, and I will continue to support y'all in any way. It's an honor.
Well, thank you, Senator Scott, Senator Paul, Congressman Miller, and Senator Lane. We really appreciate your support, and it's not just today. All of these members of Congress have been working very hard for a long time to make sure the taxpayers' money is being spent more efficiently, not being wasted, and we are happy to work with them on anything they're working on as well. Any questions? Okay, we're all convinced. That's great. Thank you very much for joining us today. We will be posting this on Facebook so that the rest of the world can know all about the 2026 Congressional Pig Book.